what is important is that it means South Africa is producing, in theory, academically very strong internal auditors.
That's great.
It's not really, as far as I'm concerned, it's not for the auditors or the audit firms. It's actually a service to the public.
Yes.
Reporting CPD hours number one. Is each individual's member.
Okay.
It's responsibility.
It's not the...
Nobody else's.
Okay. Makes sense.
If you're a professional, you'll make sure your hours are reported.
Hello, my fellow internal auditors and everyone else who's interested in the assurance space. I am Masego Malapile and welcome to yet another amazing INbrief podcast. So you know what this podcast is about. We are here to make sure that we give you nuggets of wisdom, but not only that, but to give you a glimpse of what happens behind the scenes, especially with the Institute of Internal Auditors, but not only that, but also understanding what's in the minds of our assurance providers, especially internal auditors. So if you are watching and you are an internal auditor, do not forget to watch this video up until the end, because that's where you are going to get your CPD points. But not only that, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you also provide feedback in a form of a comment down there. So comment down below on what is it that you liked about this interview or about the podcast in general, and what is it that you would like to see change. So today we have a special guest. I call him a veteran. I've been looking forward to this interview for a very long time. So today we have our esteemed guest, Mr. Charles Nell, who has been working for the Institute of Internal Auditors for 20 years. And Charles, prior to that, he served as the Pretoria region and the board for the IIA SA. He holds a master's in philosophy in internal audit from the University of Pretoria with a BCom honors in informatics, and also he obtained it at UP and a BCom from WITS. He also has a certificate general internal audit and a postgraduate diploma in internal audit. He has the following designation. He's a CIA, a PIA, and PCIA. He joined the Institute of Internal Auditors South Africa as a technical manager and acted as the CEO of the IIA SA and the Academy during the COVID period, and now serving as a senior manager strategy implementation support at the IIA SA. Charles is married, ladies and gentlemen, to Dalian, and they have two amazing boys. Charles, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice to be here. Like, I've been looking forward to this interview for a very long time. You know why? It's always nice to have someone who has been working in the institution for a long time, because there are a lot of things that are happening that probably we wouldn't get an understanding of where does it come from. For example, the designations that we've just read that you hold, PIA, PCIA, like what was being discussed on the table, who was saying what. But before we can even dig deep into a lot of things that are happening in the institution, for the benefit of the people that are watching, please tell us more about yourself. Who is Charles? Not as a profession, but as a person. Where did you grow up? Which school did you go to? What's your favorite song? What makes you happy? What makes you angry? We just want to know who Charles is.
That's a difficult question. What makes me happy? I'm probably a very quiet, reserved, behind-the-scenes type of person. So I don't like the front stage. I don't enjoy being in the front stage. Probably a bit of a perfectionist. That's me. I grew up in Kimberley.
Nice.
My sister's still there. My brother's in Australia. And my one child is in Port Elizabeth at the moment. And the other one looks like he's going to move to Cape Town. So that's where we are as a family. My wife, Dalian, is in the same profession. She's also a CIA. And she's actually a better auditor than me.
I hope you're watching.
So, what makes me happy? When things go right.
Yeah.
When things go wrong and we can't get them right, or there's systemic inefficiencies.
Yeah.
Like we've got with the qualifications space at the moment.
Yeah.
It's irritating because you can't fix it.
Yeah.
So it's not in your control to fix. And we like to be in control.
So, in terms of like your hobbies, what do you enjoy doing the most? If you're not working, what else are you doing?
I don't have hobbies at the moment. The hobby is probably looking after cattle. So
Oh, that's a nice hobby.
opening up the cattle gate in the morning, letting them out in
Oh,
the evening, etc.
that's actually
That's
a nice
my other
hobby.
life.
And what about fishing?
No, I used to fish with my dad,
Did you enjoy it?
but now I don't fish very much at the moment. And I still have to catch a sea fish. I haven't caught a sea fish yet.
Okay, it's a promise. You need to catch a sea fish. Doesn't it require patience? I'm not that patient, to sit down and wait for the fish to catch bait.
I can sit down and do nothing all day.
I cannot. Really?
Yep.
I need to master that skill. I feel like I have a busy mind. So sitting down and doing nothing for me would be pure torture.
If you're sitting down doing nothing, doesn't mean your mind is not busy.
Okay, that's true.
That's where strategic ideas come from.
That's actually true. Maybe I should go somewhere at the mountain and just be in a quiet place and strategize about things. It helps.
Yeah.
Okay. So now take us through your career journey.
So I grew up in IT.
Oh,
I went to varsity, in fact, to become a chartered accountant. Got involved with IT and thought that's far better for me than being a chartered accountant. So I
okay.
went via the IT route. I've always been involved in financial systems, both in the state and in the private sector, in the financial services industry. I moved over to IT audit many years ago, about 30 years ago. And that was my career. Then I came to join the Institute as a technical manager. And that's where we are at the moment. Some of the concepts we're dealing with now, the designations, etc., were conceived originally by one of the board members who was on the board when I wasn't on the board, after I'd moved off the board. We did all the work. The original work was a guy called John Crosley. And we knew after the 1994 we would have to have a black influx of black individuals into the profession if we wanted to make it work.
Yeah.
And so the learnerships were conceived to provide individuals with the opportunity to do articles, start training, to try and fast track the development. Hasn't gone as fast as I would like. I think it's starting to get there.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is we need to focus significantly more in the IT space.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why one of the occupational qualifications for the IT specialization was set up.
Okay. So in terms of your career journey, what attracted you to start working with the IIA?
I think I was actually looking for a new career opportunity. I've always been involved prior to joining the IIA. I was always involved with the IIA. Technically, I'm reasonably strong.
Okay.
So when they advertised for a technical manager, my wife actually made me aware of the post, and I applied and got the job, and that's where it started. So,
And that was 20 years ago.
that was 20 years ago. So head of technical was a single post, single individual. And I used to be able to answer most queries over the phone.
Okay.
That's how many queries we got.
2?
Yeah, so then they started to get a little bit more difficult, and you had to put more time in and more effort in. And so as the industry and the complexity grew and as the number of auditors grew, it changed.
Yeah. And also the environment changes, the world changes, problems change, everything changes.
I think the problems are significantly more than they used to be.
Yeah.
But also the industry is significantly larger
Yeah.
than it was. If you look when I joined joined the board and when I was in the Pretoria region, there weren't 100 CIAs in the country. So they had 100 club for CIA.
Okay, that was not many.
They wanted to list the top 100 CIAs. My wife was in the top 100. I wasn't. I only wrote it about 10 years after she'd written. I wrote the CIA. I still remember she had to write an exam paper, like we write for our occupational certificates.
Wow.
It wasn't multiple choice. When I wrote, it was 2002, when the first changes to the whole standards came. So we went from a 3 numeric standard to a 4 numeric standard.
Yeah.
So in 2002, Belen and I did a roadshow and took the standards to South Africa.
Wow.
Supported or paid for by our companies. So,
but I want to ask you, what made you so passionate? Because even in your bio, you've been in the internal audit space for a long time. What makes you so passionate about it?
I like a very broad base. So I like to see lots of things. I get very bored if I'm very focused. So I prefer doing new projects, seeing new things, and watching things change.
Yeah.
Once it becomes operational and daily, I don't really have any more interest.
You don't enjoy it at all.
In that space, no.
But would you choose any other career besides this one?
I think the two careers that I would ever look at was, I love IT.
Yeah.
It's always the backbone of everything that I do. And bringing it and trying to get internal audit moved into the IT space, I think is a challenge, is a real challenge.
Yeah.
Because people are scared of IT and I don't know why. The concepts are very simple. If you understand the basic concepts and put the effort in that space, everything becomes relatively easy.
I think with IT, people are more afraid of the complexity of it. Well, we say it's complex, but in most cases we make that judgment because we haven't really tried it.
Yes, we don't understand.
Is it complicated?
Yeah, I would say that's so, because you don't trust the backbone of IT, so how it all plugs in.
That's true.
Today you don't need to know how it plugs into each other. We still have to make it plug in on the various levels.
I had a crazy idea that how about we have artificial intelligence conducting this interview? Like I had this crazy idea that how about we start having artificial intelligence doing these interviews? Do you think it will work?
Yeah, it probably will.
Speaking to a robot, it would be something like Alexa, because it's a what is it? It's like something that is this big, and then we just put voices and questions. But I don't think it will engage with you at a human level. It will just be asking you questions.
I don't think we've got artificial intelligence there. Although when I was driving in this morning, our South African American friend, they've plugged a whole computerized sort of electronic wires into somebody's brain already. And he said they had a hiccup or two, and he was able to control machines and radios, etc., with his mind. Switch them on, switch them off. They had 1 or 2 hiccups, and I was quite surprised. Okay, I'm not in that space.
I'm actually trying to imagine what type of hiccups will it be. I mean, the person is alive, right?
No, he's fine.
And they put a microchip like in his brain.
Yeah, well, it's all of the, I don't know how they did it or what they did. All I'm hearing is the story I heard on the radio coming in, which I thought, okay, very interesting, as long as they don't do it to my brain.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Like it's good when you observe it from afar, but when it's here, no, absolutely not. So you've been working in IIA for a very long time, and you've been through different CEOs. And I always say this, where there's change in leadership, it's similar to being a South African. They change presidents all the time. So it's fair to say we've been through different types of leaderships. Yeah. So with IIA, you've worked with different leaders and you yourself have become a leader in the process. So how does that actually work out, like, what was your experience having to adapt to different changes? Because not only leadership change, the industry change, the people change, the focus changes. So how have you managed all these changes?
I think that's part of business.
Yeah.
So there's an expectation that's changed. I think coming from IT, you've always driven change.
Yeah.
Okay, so that drives change to a large extent.
Yeah.
So I've always written the systems, always part of teams who wrote systems. So they change the behavior of users and so on. So if you be making other people change, then you're going to have to change when things in your environment change. So leadership is transitional. So it's there for a while and then it moves on. It changes. Things change, things happen.
It's like, what do they say? The only constant in life is change.
Yeah.
Change is the only
and
constant.
it's a definite statement today.
Yeah.
There's consistent change.
Yes.
Even those changes are more disruptive than they used to be.
Yeah.
So we know we're going to have changes all the time.
So Charles, we're going to play a nice riddle game. So we always do this with most of our guests. And we just want to gauge your mind outside the profession. So the first riddle is, what is the end of everything?
What is the end of everything?
Yes.
Start of something new.
That's not the answer.
Not the answer.
Think outside the box, like something you wouldn't even imagine.
Haven't got a clue.
It's the letter G.
Pardon?
The letter G.
The letter G.
Yes. Okay, so here's an interesting one. How far can you walk into the woods?
My answer would be you can walk right through them.
Actually, almost got it right. But how far can you walk into the woods? The key word is into.
As far as you like. I really think so.
So here's the answer. You can only walk into the woods halfway. After that, you're walking out of the woods. It's no longer into the woods.
Okay.
Okay, so what part of the chicken has the most feathers?
What part of a chicken has the most feathers?
Yeah.
Well, it's got feathers all over. It's definitely not the wings.
You almost got it right. It's the outside of the chicken.
Yeah.
The whole chicken has feathers. The outside of the chicken actually has feathers.
Yeah.
So we spoke about the different types of leaderships that you have, right? I just want to know which projects, or in your serving as in IIA for the past 20 years, what have you identified as something that excites you or something that had a meaningful impact in the Institute of Internal Auditors over the years since you've started working here?
I think the learnerships was probably one of the more important ones. Because I think it's got that for the impact for the profession in total, and the development of individuals in the profession. That was the one. I think the other element that's really excited me is on the academic side, outside the institute.
Okay.
Is our universities. South Africa has got, outside the United States, the most recognized universities.
Really?
By global in the world, yeah. So we've got 5 recognized at the moment.
What determines a university to be recognized? Like, what must happen? Is there something?
Yeah, there's a set of criteria and requirements that they have to meet. And to be recognized by global as a AIEP university, and I think that really bodes well.
Yeah.
For South Africa, if we're producing that caliber of curriculum.
Yes.
And I think the IIA has been involved to support most of those universities. And they've done the work.
Yeah.
And I think we've just followed suit to watch and see what they've done. We sit on their boards. But I think what is important is that it means South Africa is producing, in theory, academically very strong internal auditors.
That's great.
Which I would see long term.
Yes.
The strategic impact.
Yes.
Is that South Africa could possibly export internal auditors.
Ooh, can we put it on the wish list for IIA? Like, we'll put it in the wish bucket. We would like to be exported. Can it be, we have a person who's in charge of exporting this profession in this interview. We would love to be exported. It would be such an amazing experience to work somewhere else. So I have 2 follow-up questions. The first question is, from the top of your mind, what are those universities? Actually, it's 3 follow-up questions. Let's start with what are those universities? Secondly, and what are those criteria? Just from the top of your head, you don't have to be specific. And the last one is the learnerships. So let's start with what are those universities?
Okay, so the universities, UP, UNISA, CUT is just joined. So they just coming in. They've just been recognized at the lowest level. We've got TUT. I'm missing one.
What about Wits?
Nelson Mandela.
Oh, Nelson Mandela University.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
So those are the 5 recognized by Global already.
And what about the criteria? What criteria did these universities meet in order for them to be recognized by Global?
So they cover the let's say the curriculum of the IIA, and they meet a whole series of requirements. So I don't remember the stuff off the top of my head. You got to tick them off. That's a tick box type of exercise for me. So, but they meet a significant number of requirements in order to get listed.
Yeah.
And obviously they have to support the IIA. We have to support them.
I think UJ and Wits must get on board, honestly, and all the other universities that are out there. But I'm happy that at least UNISA and we do have universities in South Africa that are recognized by Global. It's just a matter of getting as many as possible, especially as our strategic partners in the process.
That's correct.
Last follow-up question. In terms of the learnerships, can you please tell us about the learnership program?
Okay, so learnerships essentially are to take individuals once they move into the market. One of the issues that we discovered many years ago was that CIAs, they could write and pass the CIA exam, but once they hit the market, they couldn't really deliver the goods at the expected level.
That's correct.
And so the concept was, because we knew we had a number of individuals who were going to come into the space of internal auditing due to changes in legislation in the PFMA and the MFMA, we thought, how do we train individuals or upskill them pretty quickly so that they can get to the target of being a good internal auditor within a period of 2 years, and that's why the learnership really was created.
Yeah.
So you can get the practical experience as well, which backs up the academic training. It also gives, the learnership is also giving you an opportunity to say, because internal audit is not about the fact that you've got an internal audit degree.
Yes.
It's about the fact that I've got a nurse in a hospital group who would be able to better audit probably the nursing of individuals in the hospital. So you want to train those individuals. And that was also part of why the learnership was created. You can take somebody, an engineer, out of their comfort zone, put them into an internal audit space, and they can go and learn how to audit.
Yes.
So because the industry is so varied, it's not specifically like a chartered accountant where you have an accounting qualification and these are the accounting principles. I think we've got the same type of principle coming up in the accounting profession. You've got three sets of, you've got private sector accounts, you've got public sector accounts, and you've got municipal accounts. All three are really specializations.
Yes.
And I know that the accounting profession is going through a change at the moment, so I think they're going to have three specializations. We've got the specialization of IT and the manager level one, which is specialization of quality assurance, both of the individual and the quality assurance over the internal audit activities.
Let's actually go to the strategic objectives that IIA has right now. And I think you are managing one of the projects, which is recognition. Tell us more about it.
So recognition goes about ensuring that, number one, we don't have fly-by-night service providers in the market. Looking at or giving the South African public and organizations the ability to go and say, these are internal audit service providers who are recognized by the IIA. That means they've met a certain minimum requirements. They have professional indemnity insurance. They have qualified individuals. And they have individuals who are recognized within their organization to sign reports. Those recognized individuals obviously have to have one of three designations with their CPD up to date, which is a CIA, a PCIA, or a PIA.
Okay.
And then we brought in the category of non-recognized individuals within a recognized organization.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm calling them non-recognized. They haven't got a nice name for it yet. But it means they don't hold the designation internal audit, but they might still be signing audit reports.
Oh, okay.
But what the intention is to issue, or if an individual gets an audit report or somebody working on a project, they'd be able to do a query in the IIA and pull a certificate which says this person is recognized. They are a member of the IIA. So they're obviously abiding by the standards.
Yes, and the code of ethics.
Even though they might be a chartered accountant.
Yes.
Or a different qualified person. But they are somebody who's part of a recognized firm.
Yes. But has it started yet?
Officially, not yet. It's going to start off quite soon. We've got a pilot project, but aimed at 1 June 2024.
Oh, that's in the next few days.
A couple of days away.
It's actually a couple of days from here. In your time, it has already started, because by the time this episode comes out, chances are it would have already started. So with this recognition project, what exactly does it mean for members and also for internal audit companies or firms, small or big firms? What does it mean for them?
It means that the firm can get itself listed. So it means that they're going to meet a minimum series of requirements, that all their staff who are involved in internal audit activities have to be members of the IIA, and therefore fall under the disciplinary code, that they apply the internal audit standards in the practice of the work, that they have internal audit methodologies in place, that they have a quality assurance and improvement program in place.
Yeah.
So if you're going to employ this organization, it has an assertion from the organization that these requirements are met. So they're asserting that they met it.
Yeah.
And they actually give us certain evidence that they've actually put that in place. So
the recognition, I'm just trying to get an understanding. Is it only for organizations or is it also for individuals? So I'm imagining from a firm's perspective, the firm gets recognized and the individual, or just the firm?
The firm gets recognized.
Okay.
But within the firm, you will have recognized or non-recognized individuals.
Okay, makes sense.
The recognized individual within the firm would be based on their criteria. So they either a CIA, PIA, or PCI. So they are recognized with a CPD in place, etc. So there's probably a little bit of pressure placed on the firms to make sure that their staff meet the requirements. We'll see how it goes. It's a startup to try,
and it's a new project,
not to regulate the profession, but to start saying these are the individual firms, which and it can be an individual.
Yeah.
So Charles Nell can actually go and apply if he's practicing on his own.
I think this project is a good project. I think this is a project that most organizations that don't know, especially from employing an internal audit firm perspective. I'm saying this because I'll give an example with Nigeria, data protection laws. So according to the data protection laws in Nigeria, they said you need to obviously employ an MLRO, but you need to have an audit company or a company that will audit the process to ensure the data security of the data subjects. And then they would say in the very same regulation that we do have a database of those. They're not talking about in-house internal audit. They're talking about recognized audit firms that are recognized by that institution to actually perform audits on data protection according to the Nigerian laws. And then they'll give you a huge database where you can then, as an organization, can do your own research and figure out which of the organizations you can work with.
That's exactly what we aim at. So
yes.
It's not really, as far as I'm concerned, it's not for the auditors or the audit firms. It's actually a service to the public.
Yes. Yes.
To say, if you want to employ an audit firm, these people are abiding by the standards.
Yes.
These people are doing the best. These people have certain things like methodologies in place to conduct correct internal audits. And these are the individuals within that organization, which you can verify with the IIA, that have signatory rights or have been listed as signatories. So we're trying to prevent fraudulent reports from being issued by a non-recognized signatory. That's the one side of it.
Okay.
Then there's a second side, which is looking specifically at QA service providers. And there we've looked only at individuals. So you recognize an individual who can do QA. We're not going to stop you from contracting anywhere or with any firm in South Africa to do work for them. But you've got the opportunity to get yourself listed, and you've met certain requirements to be listed as a QA, quality assurance signatory. And again, it's to say, if you want a QA done, these are the individuals who have the right to sign a QA report according to the IIA, and they've done the PECWA course, or they hold the occupational certificate, internal audit manager QA. And I think that's important.
Yes.
The intention in the long run is to get the occupational certificate, internal audit manager QA at the top level, as the top, let's say, qualification for internal audits.
I'm joining the bandwagon as well. I'm joining
in South Africa.
So this is just follow-up questions, because I really want us to, especially the viewers and then especially the people that will be using this, can we call it a database, recognition?
It's a recognition database.
Database, right?
Yeah.
So there's some form of level of comfort that I want them to have. Obviously, with every new project that we have, there's an element of risk to it, right? But let me start with that, because I have many follow-up questions, because we need to have an understanding so that whenever this project officially starts, they can come back to this interview and say, oh, okay, that's what we were supposed to do. Let's start with, what do you imagine being the backlash with this entire project?
I think there are quite a number of risks. Number one, the market doesn't like what we do.
Yep, that's true.
I think we've got a little bit of risk, international risk, because this is the first country yet to go who's trying something new.
Okay.
To go into a space where we're saying these are service providers. For the IIA, it's a little bit of risk because we're going to say these people are recognized, and if they don't meet the requirements, that could come back and smack us a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's a move to get the profession to look after its own interest.
Yes.
Rather than the IIA having to look after the interest.
Yeah.
So in the long term, if you took it 10 years down the line, what you really would like to see is that all recognized service providers are there. All recognized service providers retain their statement. The IIA is made aware of organizations which are not meeting the requirements. And obviously we have to determine what the sanctions are going to be if things go wrong. So there's some stuff we're going to have to play out as it runs.
Yeah, I don't want to lie. This is a very hard pill to swallow, but at the same time, it's an exciting project to have. Especially if we are the first in global, we set the standard. But there are benefits to it, and I think most people want to understand what these benefits are from both the recognized individuals and organizations and also those that are using this recognition database. I think let's clarify it to them so that they can know what these benefits are.
I think that's important from both. So the one is in the public interest.
Yes.
To say IIAs going out there to say these people are saying they're abiding by the institute standards.
Yes.
It also gives the general public a space to lodge complaints against firms which are not meeting their expectations. I also think it's, from our point of view, that's more the marketing space we have to work in, because we want to make sure that only recognized firms or individuals are utilized as service providers for internal audit services. Okay. So anybody outside that space is not going to be considered.
Yeah.
And for work in the internal audit space, and I think that's we want that independence of decision making for the public. Whoever wants to hire a firm to do certain work, they can
just pull the database.
Yeah.
I think you have a lot of work to do. I think you do. You know why? I can imagine the admin of maintaining this recognition database in terms of if you do not report your CPD hours, obviously your designation, especially if you don't report your hours every year, your designation, you might lose it. Then that means you need to now update the database and remove and put back and remove and put back. So what's the process?
I don't think that administration should be too much.
Okay.
Because individuals can report their CPD, the facilities are there to do it. We're also busy at the moment preparing organizations where they have internal training for the audit teams, their own audit teams, and they have 10 people training on internal CPD. We also put in provisions in place for them to enable them to load up that CPD onto their individuals' records. So I don't think there's an excuse for anybody not to meet the CPD requirements anymore, because there's a lot of free CPD available, such as
like this
podcast.
Yes.
And it is education in the space that it's saying this is where the profession's going, this is what we're doing, this is where the standards are, yes, some advice, etc., etc. So I think that individuals can look into the future and say, we have no reason not to record our CPD anymore.
Yeah.
I think one of the very important factors, which frustrates me to some extent,
Okay.
is that a lot of internal auditors don't take their CPD very seriously. We know that in the last year, a number of CIAs lost their CIA because they had a year to rectify the fact that they don't report their CPD. But it's going to be the same with the designation. So the tightening of meeting the requirements to remain a valid internal auditor is obviously getting a little bit tighter than what it was in the past.
So are we working with other professional bodies? Because even if when we check our website, we have something that speaks about ICFE, we'll have something that speaks about ISACA. I'm not sure about SAICA, but do we collaborate with other professional bodies, particularly on this project?
I'm going to answer it in this way. We've got the facility to load up CPD. So you can load your CPD records, you can load SAICA. Training up. You can give us the certificates.
Yeah.
It gets tested. Everybody it either gets accepted or rejected.
Yes.
So one of our staff members actually sit and do that.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's within the correct time period. We've been relatively lenient.
Okay.
And I'm always leaning towards be more lenient, but make sure you meet the requirements. So if you're practicing, get your 40 hours done. If you're a PCI, get your 40 hours done. You've got the facility loaded to load it up. If you haven't got 40 hours in 1 year, maybe you need to do 45 next year, and we'll take 5 of those hours and put them against last year's shortfall.
Okay.
But we want to see you having done the 40 hours every single year.
CPD hours are important in our professions, all of the professions, especially if you're part of a professional body and you hold some form of accreditation or designation. Now, my question is, chances are members don't get it. It's possible that members don't get that. They actually need CPD hours. Perhaps, I'm just thinking, that most probably the mindset they have is CPD hours is just numbers that you need to fill in and submit. But they don't understand the reason why they actually need these hours, right? Continuous professional development. Can we tell them what exactly is CPDs and why do they need them? And I like to believe the standards speak up, the old standards speak about them. But let's explain to them what are CPDs and why are they important?
Well, CPD is always important because that's essentially it's saying you're keeping up to date with the technical aspects of the profession.
Yes.
That's what it's saying.
Yes.
So if you're a doctor and there are new techniques and you don't learn about them, or there's new medicine and you don't learn about it, you're not going to make your patients well. You're also going to be removed as a practicing doctor at some stage if you
can't be a doctor.
Peers. And that's exactly what this is looking at, to say if you've done your CPD, means you've proved to us you've kept up to date, proved you continue to learn. And I mean, there's so many opportunities to do it. You can even record if you've done research to create a new audit program. You can load that research up and give us an opportunity to say yes or no. We accept your research. When I was in the audit space, did a heck of a lot of research for new programs and making it fit to the organization, etc. So that's CPD.
So there are some organizations, not just individuals, especially in-house internal auditors. Most probably their organizations don't understand the importance of CPD. Because to be honest, you have podcasts, if we do our calculations, in a year, we have about 55 weeks, right?
Yeah,
52 weeks. So with 52 weeks, it means if you watch this podcast until the end, every week, you have 52 CPD hours in a year. But we still have ethics.
Yeah, you have to do and I think there's 3-hour ethics for any South African quality designation.
Yes.
Global, I think, is 2.
Okay.
So if you hold a South African designation, you've got to do three CPD hours
On ethics.
related to ethics. If you just watched podcasts, I think you're in a dicey space because you're very limited in the exposure that you're getting.
Yes.
So you need to do at least some courses or do some IT space. So it's really up to the professionalism of the individual.
Yeah. So I want us to help them, for organizations to buy into investing in their auditors that are in-house to actually do CPD hours. Reason being, you'd find that some will submit a budget for the year and say, I have a team of 10 and I'm going to the audit committee and this is what we need in order for them to get CPD hours. Some would say, why must we continuously pay every year for your education or even to attend conferences? What's the importance? Because I think we need to bridge the gap in terms of understanding for organizations and also for individuals. Individuals now, based on your explanation, they know what's the importance of CPD hours. But what about organizations that are funding, not just watching podcasts, but that are funding this continuous professional development? How can we encourage them of the importance of CPD hours? Because I want them to, firstly, allow them to attend the conferences based on what's happening at the conferences. Secondly, I want them to allow them to take the courses that we have as the institution so that they can actually be developed. Thirdly, I want them to encourage them, even if they're developing new systems in their own organizations, in order to report those CPDs back to us. Because I think sometimes we don't do things because we don't do them. We don't do them because the understanding of the benefits and the cost is not there. So how can we encourage organizations to enable them and support the internal audit function to actually report these CPD hours?
So it's really, for me, it's reporting CPD hours, number one. Is each individual's member.
Okay.
It's responsibility.
It's not the...
Nobody else's.
Okay. Makes sense.
If you're a professional, you'll make sure your hours are reported.
Okay.
As far as the budget goes, you've got your CAEs. It's their job to make sure that there's an opportunity created for training which is going to support the organization in the achievement of its goals. There's no organization which is going to say you need to go to a conference.
For fun.
We're just not going to pay. What they are going to say is, I want to see what value I'm getting back. And that's the CAE's job.
Yes.
So they've got to determine what the value is. So that's in their space. But the reporting of CPD and making sure that you've covered enough CPD. When it's budget time, speak to your boss.
Yes.
And speak to your CAE and say, this is what we need for training. This is where the organization is going. This is new training that's needed to let us as internal auditors meet the requirements in the future. Okay. So organization's not their responsibility. Yeah. It remains a professional individual's requirement. Okay. To make sure you meet it, I meet it, and anybody else who's an internal auditor meets the requirements.
So now back to our database, our beautiful database. So what are the actual requirements for individuals besides the designation? I like to believe there are other things that needs to be done. And also, how are you going to monitor it on a yearly basis? I'm not sure if you're going to monitor yearly, monthly, I'm not sure. So
we would monitor yearly. So we're going to run it together with the financial year, essentially. Okay. And I'm not sure if we're going to do spot checks every now and again. But there will be a little bit of checking done before we register you. Well, quite a bit of checking done before we register you. And once you're registered, we'll see what queries we get or what complaints we get coming in, and work with that.
Speaking of complaints, because we love to complain. People in general love complaining. Everybody loves to complain. How do we imagine the complaining or resolution of these complaints would work?
We'll see what comes along.
Will it be on a case-by-case basis, or will
It'll only be on case-by-case basis?
Okay. Yeah. So is there no like a complaints board that people can direct their complaints to?
No, there will. That's part of the IIA's complaint space already. So it'll go via the disciplinary and investigations committees. It's kept out of the space of the.
Okay. So we are almost out of time, and I wanted to take you down memory lane. 20 years worth of memory. How has it been working with different people in IIA?
I think sometimes you've had to work where you just didn't agree with what was going on.
Yeah.
So that takes a bit of patience.
Yes.
Sometimes things went well, and I think currently there's a lot of energy.
Yep.
And I think it bodes well for the profession. I think we are taking some risk at the moment. But I also know that, I think I know that the world's eyes are on us with the recognition project to see how well it's taken by the market. And we'll see if this eventually becomes the standard within other institutes throughout the world.
Yeah. I think it will work. I think looking at, for example, the example that I gave with Nigeria's data protection laws, not knowing exactly in the background is because it was also new by the time I was studying it. And yeah, it was quite tricky. But what I liked about it is if you did not know where to find a data protection audit specialist, you go to their website and you find the database and you select the person that you need, right? But now, worst case scenario, let's say the market hates it. I'm not even talking about the people that are using it. I'm not talking about the organizations that are using this list. I'm talking about the people that are supposed to be on that list. They hate it. They don't want it. And we all know what happens with IIA, especially when it comes to members. Come AGM, they're like, no, this project of yours, we don't want it. What are we going to do?
I think it's going to take a little bit of persuasion.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Should people not want it? I think that's why looking at it from the point of view of public interest is for me more important than looking at it from a service provider.
Yeah.
And I think any service provider which would want to be seen as a valid service provider for internal audit services, I can't see why they wouldn't want to be listed, and I don't think it's going to be very expensive to get yourself listed.
Yes.
So if I'm saying
yes,
we're not pushing it in a way where we want to make a huge amount of money, and what we want to do is just to give the public a space where they're comfortable to go and look, and also to give the institute the visibility, I think.
Yes.
So that the general public know where internal audit lives.
Yes. So this is just a complete question that's literally on that next off-ramp. Were you involved in the introduction of PCIA? I think it was only implemented not so long ago, right? 2020? 2021?
The PCIA, I had to go and negotiate with Global.
Okay. So you, to be fair, you've been working on difficult projects.
Yes.
You've been working on difficult projects because the first thing is there has to be something that needs to be changed for the benefit of internal auditors, the profession, and the public interest. Secondly, you have to convince Global that this is a program that can actually work. And then come back to the stakeholders and say, oh, by the way, stakeholders, this is a new project that we have. It's a new designation called PCIA, and these are the benefits that you will receive if you actually start enrolling in PCIA. So now my question is, with all these new projects, let's start with the first difficult one that you've ever started with. What are the tangible achievements that we can see? You know why I'm doing this? So that when somebody else watches and they look at this new project, they're like, wait, actually, this is for our benefit. this works for us. So for the most difficult projects that you've had, let's start with the first one. Is it currently still being enforced? Is it working?
I think most of the projects we've pushed are working. I don't think learnerships have taken off quite in the space I would have liked to have seen them.
Yeah.
Yet. I'm hoping in the next year that, or the next financial year, starting 1 June, that we are going to see a shift in the learnership space. But I'm not managing that, so I'm out of it. I think the designations are tied down.
Yeah.
I think that's safe. It's all got PCI has got global approval, so we haven't got any stress in that space.
Yeah.
Which we didn't have with the PIA. We had a little bit of conflict with global. I think that was solved. It is a little bit more difficult to get the PCI designation because you have to have the CIA plus the South African qualification.
Which is do
occupational certificate, occupational certificate, internal audit manager, or the legacy qualification, which is, I think, certificate general internal auditing.
How many certificates do we have?
There's four occupational certificates.
In South Africa? In
South Africa. The 2 specializations and the manager and audit. Okay, so those are the 4. Let's call them the new qualifications. The 2 legacy qualifications are the internal audit technician.
The IAT, yeah.
The internal audit technician. And the certificate general internal auditing.
So we don't have PIA anymore?
We won't issue the PIA anymore.
Okay.
It remains, if you have a PIA,
it's still
that designation will remain. You will keep that designation. But part of the agreement with Global was we wouldn't issue anymore.
Okay. So we've run out of time, and I had a lot of more questions to ask you. But just let's give our viewers and internal auditors a glimpse of what the recognition project is about by just giving them a quick summary and convincing them. We just want you to look at that camera and just convince them that this is the right way to go. It's for their benefit and the benefit of the public.
Yes, I think the recognition project is about making sure that organizations which provide services or internal audit services to other organizations are recognized, have met a certain number of minimum requirements, and have methodologies, have quality assurance programs in place, and it's there to give the public an idea that these are organizations which are prepared, number one, to abide by minimum requirements, are prepared to be investigated if necessary if they're not meeting the requirements, and obviously will really want to be known in the public space as organizations that have the ability to provide superior service internal auditors to conduct assignments within an organization.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Charles. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Really, thank you. Thank you. I think it was the project you have is very difficult, and there's a lot of buy-in that you need to get from stakeholders for this, but engaging with you now, I know for a fact that this project is in good hands.
We hope so.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe you are the right person to actually get it across the line. Not because of experience, but even how you are explaining the entire process, how you're explaining the importance of recognition, which I think it's such an amazing project for an institution to have. And it will help us market our profession. It will help the companies that are auditing marketable and the individuals marketable as well. So I think it's a great opportunity to empower the internal audit profession in general. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. And we are looking forward to seeing how it will actually go. And we are rooting for you, to be honest. We are rooting for the institution. We're rooting for ourselves to make sure that we are also recognized. And tomorrow we can walk in with a CV. And if they ask you, are you accredited? Like, Google me. I'm on the database somewhere.
Yeah, not accredited, recognized.
Recognized. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm recognized
I'm not
somewhere.
going to accredit a firm. I'm
Yes,
going to recognize it.
recognized. So, fellow viewers, thank you so much. As you have heard, the recognition project is one of the biggest projects that we have in the Institute of Internal Auditors South Africa that you need to look out for. If you want to be recognized, go look out. Probably the information will be on the website, I'm sure, when it's ready.
When we're ready, we'll have it on the website.
Yes, so when the information is ready, it will be on the website. Be on the lookout. If you want to be recognized by the Institute of Internal Auditors South Africa as an internal auditor or providing internal audit services, make sure that you follow the criteria and you actually do register for it and go through the process. It's for your own benefit. If you do not know what the process is, I'd like to believe that there are other, well, for example, the Nigeria example that I've given, that have done this before just to test out if it works for you or not, if you do not have an understanding of it. However, thank you for watching this wonderful podcast. We really did appreciate this particular interview. I am Masego Malapile. Thank you for watching INbrief podcast. Be on the lookout for more episodes to come. Goodbye.